Imagine a creature so improbable that it defies all natural logic. An animal born from the union of two mortal enemies, a being that simply shouldn't exist. Yet this creature has survived through the centuries, inspired poets, fascinated artists, and conquered millions of fans around the world. Today, we're diving into the fascinating universe of the Hippogriff, this majestic beast that proves that when it comes to imagination, nothing is truly impossible. Stay until the end, because I've got some surprising revelations about this creature you might think you already know. Let's start at the beginning. What exactly is a hippogriff? Well, imagine taking the front half of a griffin, you know, that legendary creature with an eagle's head and wings on a lion's body, and grafting it onto the back half of a horse. Yes, I know. It sounds completely insane. Eagle's head, majestic wings, sharp talons in front, and a horse's body with its legs and tail in the back. A true mythological patchwork that theoretically should never work. And that's precisely the beauty of this creature. The name itself is revealing. Hippogriff comes from the combination of the ancient Greek hippos, meaning horse, and the Italian griffo, meaning griffin. It's a literal portmanteau word, a linguistic fusion that perfectly reflects the hybrid nature of the beast. But be careful, we're not talking about some random imaginary creature pulled out of thin air. The hippogriff has a history, deep roots that plunge into the most ancient mythologies. To understand the hippogriff, you first need to understand its mythological parents. The griffin, this composite creature, half eagle, half lion, has existed in collective imagination for millennia. We find it in Greek, Egyptian, Persian, and even Assyrian mythologies. It was the guardian of treasures, the protector of gods, a symbol of divine strength and vigilance. In ancient tradition, the griffin was reputed to be the mortal enemy of horses. That's why the very idea of a hippogriff was considered a total impossibility, an aberration of nature. It was the medieval equivalent of saying that fire and water could merge. And that's where the Simurgh comes in. This fabulous creature from Persian mythology might well be the distant ancestor of our hippogriff. The Simurgh is described as a gigantic bird, often represented with canine or feline characteristics, a being both terrestrial and celestial. Some historians think that descriptions of the Simurgh traveled along trade routes, mixing with legends of the griffin to eventually give birth to the concept of a hybrid horse-bird creature. It's the theory of cultural transmission at work, where myths travel, transform, and adapt to the different cultures they pass through. But the man who really brought the hippogriff to life as we know it today is Ludovico Ariosto. This Italian Renaissance poet wrote a monumental work in 1516 titled Orlando Furioso. And it's in this epic poem of over 40,000 verses that the hippogriff makes its first official appearance in literature. Ariosto didn't invent it out of whole cloth, but he gave it a name, a personality, and above all, a narrative role that would mark collective imagination for centuries to come. In Orlando Furioso, the hippogriff isn't just a simple mount. It's a magical being, born from the impossible union between a griffin and a mare. Ariosto plays with the idea of the impossible made real. It belongs to the sorcerer Atlanti, who uses it to transport the paladin Ruggiero across the world. The animal is described as extremely fast, capable of flying at dizzying speeds and crossing seas and mountains in a single beat of its wings. But what makes the hippogriff truly special in this work is its semi-tamed nature. It's not a completely docile creature. You have to know how to master it, understand it, earn its respect. Ariosto uses the hippogriff as a powerful metaphor. In the context of the Italian Renaissance, a period of intellectual and artistic effervescence, the hippogriff represents the impossible made possible, the fusion of opposites, the audacity of human imagination. When Virgil, centuries earlier in his eclogues, used the Latin expression jungentur iam gripes equus, literally, griffins will mate with horses, he was talking about something impossible, an event that could never occur. It was the equivalent of our expression, when pigs fly. Ariosto took this expression and turned it around. He said, in a way, what if this impossibility became real? What if we could break the barriers of what is considered natural? If you're enjoying this journey into the fascinating universe of the hippogriff, don't hesitate to subscribe and hit the bell to never miss any of our mythological explorations. After Ariosto, the hippogriff continued its journey through European literature. Renaissance and Baroque poets seized upon this creature. It represented elevation, transcendence, the capacity of the human spirit to free itself from earthly limits. In a world where geographical explorations were pushing back the frontiers of the known, where science was beginning to question established dogmas, the hippogriff embodied this thirst for discovery and surpassing limits. John Milton, in Paradise Lost, references poets who ride their Pegasus, that other winged equine creature from Greek mythology. Although Milton doesn't directly mention the hippogriff, this reference shows how winged horses and flying hybrid creatures had become poetic symbols of inspiration and creative imagination. imagination. The Hippogriff and Pegasus actually share common characteristics, both being horses capable of flight, but the Hippogriff distinguishes itself through its composite nature and more complex origin. French literature also took interest in this creature. Late medieval chivalric romances and fantasy works made the Hippogriff a recurring element. In these stories, it often becomes the mount of heroes, a noble and proud companion that accepts only riders worthy of it. This theme of mutual respect between man and magical creature has become an important literary trope that still resonates today. But the Hippogriff didn't just conquer literature. The visual arts also seized upon this fascinating creature. In the 19th century, Gustave Doré, that brilliant French illustrator whose engravings marked the history of illustration, created a spectacular series of works to illustrate Orlando Furioso. His representations of the Hippogriff became iconic. Doré gives it incredible majesty, with immense spread wings, powerful musculature, and an expression both noble and wild. These engravings largely contributed to fixing the visual image of the Hippogriff in Western collective imagination. We also find the Hippogriff in heraldry, that art of coats of arms that was so important in medieval and Renaissance Europe. The Hippogriff appears on certain blazons, particularly in England, where it's used as a supporter, meaning one of those creatures that hold the shield on each side. In heraldry, each animal has symbolic meaning. The lion represents courage, the eagle, nobility and vision, the horse, loyalty and speed. The Hippogriff, combining several of these attributes, becomes a symbol of synthesis, representing strength, speed, nobility, and above all, the extraordinary, the exceptional. A family bearing a hippogriff on its coat of arms proclaimed itself above the common, capable of accomplishing the impossible. This heraldic use wasn't insignificant. During the Renaissance, the period when the hippogriff gains popularity thanks to Ariosto, Europe is in full transformation. The great discoveries are pushing back the limits of the known world. The printing press is revolutionizing the dissemination of knowledge. Humanism is putting man back at the center of philosophical reflection. In this context, the hippogriff embodies the spirit of the age, this will to push back frontiers, to fuse opposites, to create the new from the old. Let's move now to the modern and contemporary era, because the hippogriff is far from having disappeared. On the contrary, it's experiencing a spectacular revival. The 20th and 21st centuries have seen the explosion of fantasy as a literary and cinematic genre. Mythological creatures have emerged from dusty books to invade our screens, our video games, and our theme parks. Role-playing games were among the first to rehabilitate the hippogriff. Dungeons & Dragons, the world's most famous role-playing game created in the 1970s, integrated the hippogriff into its bestiary. In this universe, the hippogriff is a creature that adventurers can encounter during their quests. It retains its legendary pride, its touchy temperament, and its status as a prestigious mount for those who know how to gain its trust. This inclusion in D&D allowed an entire generation of players to discover or rediscover this creature. Video games followed suit. Titles like Suikoden, Heroes of Might and Magic, or World of Warcraft included hippogriffs in their fantasy universes. But it's probably Hogwarts Legacy, the video game from the Harry Potter universe released in 2023, that offered one of the most detailed and interactive representations of the hippogriff. In this game, players can not only observe these creatures in their natural habitat, but also interact with them, tame them, and even ride them to travel across the magical world. It's an immersive experience that recalls all the importance of the ritual of respect and greeting that the hippogriff demands. Which brings us naturally to the Harry Potter saga, probably the cultural phenomenon that most contributed to popularizing the hippogriff among the general public in the 21st century. J.K. Rowling, in creating her magical universe, drew from the traditional fantastic bestiary to populate her world of wizards. The hippogriff makes its appearance in the third book, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, and quickly becomes one of the most memorable creatures of the series. Buckbeak, that's the name of the hippogriff that plays a central role in this story. Rubeus Hagrid, Hogwarts gamekeeper, uses him to teach students care of magical creatures. And there, Rowling picks up an essential element of the hippogriff myth as it developed over the centuries, this idea of mutual respect. To approach a hippogriff, you must first bow to it while maintaining eye contact, then wait for it to return your bow. Only then can you approach, and, if you're really lucky, ride it. This scene from Hagrid's class has become iconic. It perfectly illustrates the character of the hippogriff, at once proud, noble, and potentially dangerous if disrespected. Draco Malfoy learns this the hard way when he insults Buckbeak and gets attacked. The hippogriff isn't mean, but it doesn't tolerate disrespect. It's a powerful lesson about the relationship between man and nature, about the importance of humility and respect respect toward other living beings, even and especially those who seem different or dangerous to us. In the 2004 film adaptation, Buckbeak was recreated in CGI with particular care. The special effects team studied both the movements of horses and those of birds of prey to create realistic and fluid animation. The result is spectacular. When Harry rides Buckbeak and flies over the Hogwarts lake, it's a moment of pure cinematic magic that marked millions of viewers. Buckbeak also appears in subsequent films, notably in The Deathly Hallows, reinforcing his status as an emblematic creature of the saga. The impact of Harry Potter on the perception of the Hippogriff can't be underestimated. Before this saga, the Hippogriff was a relatively obscure creature, known mainly to mythology and classical literature enthusiasts. After Harry Potter, it became a familiar element of popular culture. Millions of children and adults around the world now know what a hippogriff is, know its proud temperament, and have dreamed of flying on its back. It's a perfect example of how modern popular culture can rehabilitate and reinterpret ancient myths. But the Harry Potter hippogriff isn't a simple carbon copy of Ariosto's. Rowling adapted it, gave it new characteristics while respecting the essence of the creature. In her universe, hippogriffs are considered legal magical creatures, classified as dangerous but tameable. They have intelligence comparable to horses, can live long lives, and form lasting bonds with those who gain their trust. This more naturalistic approach, which treats the hippogriff almost like a real animal with its own behaviors and needs, gave new depth to the creature. The influence of Harry Potter also led to an explosion of merchandise featuring the hippogriff. Figurines, plushies, building sets, posters, clothing. Buckbeak has become a true merchandising icon. Universal Studios theme parks even offer attractions where visitors can experience riding a hippogriff. It's the ultimate consecration for a creature born in a 16th century Italian poem to become a theme park attraction visited by millions of people each year. Beyond Harry Potter, the hippogriff continues to inspire contemporary creators. In modern fantasy literature, it regularly appears as a mount, guardian creature, or simple background element, proving that the fictional universe is rich and diverse. Authors like Terry Pratchett in his Discworld series, or Rick Riordan in his mythological series, reference similar creatures, keeping alive this tradition of the fantastic bestiary. Cinema and television series have also continued to explore these hybrid creatures. Although not all are explicitly hippogriffs, we find this fascination with composite animals, half terrestrial, half aerial, in numerous productions. Game of Thrones with its dragons, The Lord of the Rings with giant eagles and the creatures of Rohan, Avatar with its flying creatures. All these examples show that our fascination with flying mounts and hybrid creatures is still as strong. There's also this question of respect and dignity that runs through all representations of the hippogriff. Whether in Ariosto or Rowling, the hippogriff is never a simple beast of burden. It's a proud being that demands to be treated with consideration. This characteristic makes it an excellent narrative vehicle to explore themes of the relationship between humanity and nature, between power and responsibility. Riding a hippogriff isn't a right, but a privilege that must be earned. In our modern era, dominated by technology and science, we might think that mythological creatures no longer have their place. Yet exactly the opposite is happening. The more rational and explainable our world becomes, the more we seem to thirst for magic and wonder. Fantasy franchises dominate the box office. Fantasy novels sell by the millions. Video games transport us to magical universes. The hippogriff and its cousins from the fantastic bestiary are more popular than ever. And what does the future hold for the hippogriff? If current trends continue, we can expect to see it appear in new works, in new forms. With the development of virtual and augmented reality, we might soon be able to experience riding a hippogriff in an even more immersive way. Animation and special effects technologies continue to progress, enabling increasingly spectacular and realistic representations of these impossible creatures. We can also imagine new interpretations of the myth, more contemporary versions that would explore different facets of this creature. Perhaps stories told from the point of view of the hippogriff itself, exploring what it means to be a hybrid creature torn between two natures, or narratives that would use the hippogriff as a metaphor for the multiple and fluid identities that characterize our postmodern era. What's certain is that the hippogriff won't disappear anytime soon. It has proven its resilience through 5 centuries of cultural history, from Virgil, who spoke of it as an impossibility, to Ariosto, who made it exist, from Gustave Doré, who sublimated it in images, to J.K. Rowling, who made it known to the entire world. Each era has found something to say through this magnificent creature. So next time you see a hippogriff in a book, movie, or video game, take a moment to appreciate the incredible journey this creature has accomplished. From the Persian Silk Roads to Italian Renaissance, from Gustave Doré's workshops to Hollywood animation studios, from Ariosto's pages to our smartphone screens, the Hippogriff has traveled an extraordinary path, and like it, it invites us to spread our wings and rise toward new horizons. Because deep down, isn't that exactly what we do each time we open a book, turn on a movie, or start a game? We ride our own imaginary hippogriff toward worlds that don't exist, but that, thanks to the power of storytelling and imagination, become more real than reality itself. There you have it. You now know everything about the hippogriff, from its ancient mythological origins to its massive presence in modern pop culture. This creature has truly lived through it all. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and tell me in the comments what your favorite mythological creature is. I'll see you very soon for a new exploration into the fascinating depths of mythology and imagination. And remember, next time you encounter a hippogriff, bow to it with respect. It might just take you higher than you ever imagined.